Guy walks up to his pastor. He says, Pastor, oh my gosh, what's going on? I just can't believe it. Why did this fail? Why? What happened? Where did I go wrong? Looking for guidance, right? And the pastor looks at him and says, look, you didn't fail. You just ended up quitting too soon. And I think sometimes we do that. We quit before we finish. How do we know? How do we know when we're done? Is when we're done. When we finish. Finishing is about getting aligned with what you want and not stopping and continuing until that comes to pass. So when your why is clear and your next step is small, you can't eat the whole elephant. So the why am I doing this? What is the purpose? What is it in here? Do I really desire to do this? Or am I just putting on a show? Or am I trying to please people? Or is it something like that? If our why isn't important to us, we're going to end up quitting. Pressure's going to come, something's going to happen, and we'll end up saying, this isn't worth it. Let me go try something else. And then we try something else, and the same thing happens. And we end up being perpetual triers instead of finishing a course or finishing a race. We can't just get tired, or we can't have people say mean things about us and then just decide, okay, it's all over, I'm done. No, if we are set to do a work, then we're set. Years ago, I took over a work that was floundering. Had a lot of issues and problems, community problems, and the Lord sent me in there to transform the work, to transform what was there. So if it was going as planned or well, I wouldn't be needed, because we are a light sent into a dark place to transform that dark place. So when we look around, we go, man, it sure is dark. You know, what if God would have said that? What if he would have said, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And then he says, it sure is dark. But I think we do that today. We say, oh, it sure is dark. There's all kinds of problems. Those problems are the actual opportunities. The problems and the issues that you see, maybe, just maybe, you have the answer to those things. And God puts you there to transform those things. Maybe that's why you're there, because you're the one with the answer. So how or why are you doing this? That has to matter. And it goes way down deep. I grew up in addiction. I grew up in dysfunction. I said, I'm going to be there for the people who nobody was there, right? When I was coming out of that, but I'm going to be there for those people. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what I hung my hat on that. That's why I'm doing it. I'm going to be God's tool, God's vessel to people who are suffering or who are at risk. That's what I'm going to do. That's why I'm doing it. And we've seen the results of people's lives actually really transformed because we went into that thing. So your why has to be clear. And then your next step has to be little. We can't do everything at once. We can't handle all the things that need to be done. And often when you're starting, or if someone's starting a ministry or something, the best thing to do is to gather yourself or bring yourself to someone else who's actually doing the thing that you want to do. Bring yourself to the person who's actually doing what you want. Instead of reinventing the wheel, serve somebody who will give you your own unless you serve somebody else. So serve that ministry or serve that business or serve there. Make them more valuable. Get under their mission and really lift them up. That's what they need. And in turn, you gain the experience in understanding and connections and context and how this thing works. So the next step, just make the next step small. Just pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone. Just make one phone call. Make one phone call. Do one text. Reach out. Do one thing. One small thing. That's how you start to become a finisher, or to finish what you start. It's just by doing, it was said about Steve Jobs. Say what you want about him, but he got this down to, he only did what was important in the next 18 hours. And he turned out pretty successful. What can you do in the next 18 hours that will advance the vision God's given you? What can you do? I bet there's one thing, and then do that one thing, and then do the next one thing. In recovery circles, they call it doing the next right thing. Just do the next one thing. Just really simple. And no one will be there to go, yay, you did it. But you'll be there. And in the process, you start to understand how this successful thing is actually put together. Philippians 1:6, it says, being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Christ. And so he has begun a good work in you. He's begun a good work in me, and he will complete it. So really, we're not starting before we finish. God sits outside of time. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. He sits outside of time. And he sees the end from the beginning. He sees the entire parade. He sees the entire picture all at once. And so if we can see, we know that God sees, we may not see it, but if he sees the entire picture all at one time, we can rest in him, knowing that he will bring us there. We'll do the next right thing. We'll take each step, but he'll bring it to pass because we're following him on it. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 8, it says, the end of the thing is better than the beginning. The patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. So this is a big deal. So sometimes people are proud in spirit, and they start at the beginning and they act like, you ever notice that? Some people in the beginning of a challenge act like they've already completed it, but really they haven't. You can tell it's pride when you get down the road. Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So that's true. Everybody, we're proud, we're going to do this, we're going to change the world. And then you get punched in the mouth and you're like, well, maybe the world can wait. And that's just the thing. It's just one setback. How many setbacks can you take? How much pain can you take in order to accomplish what God's put in your heart? Did you say pain? I did. I said pain. How much pain can you take? What's going to happen? I can tell y'all right now what's going to happen. One, you're not going to have the answers, and you're not going to know how to do things. And you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to search out these answers. You're going to have to find people better than you. You're going to have to make relationships in order to make any vision worthwhile come to pass. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. It's not like, the vision is going to come and just fall in your lap and you'll say, this is great. Nobody ever had a great testimony without a great test. And so we're gonna feel uncomfortable. As we go, people are going to turn against us. People are going to turn against us. That you can have relationships 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And then at some point, that relationship may not last. That's going to happen. People may say things about you, even if they're not true. It's going to happen. How much pain? How many setbacks? How many times will you put your best into something and hope and believe God, and then boom, a setback, something unforeseen happens? And you can't predict it. Maybe the people you're working with, maybe they're not ready to move forward. You're ready, but maybe they're not ready. So maybe you have a team that you're working with that isn't as prepared or isn't as developed. And now, instead of complaining or changing out the team, maybe we work on our team. Maybe we build up those people who are working with us, right? So enduring this pain for success. It is going to be painful. If we can't handle pain, we can't handle succeeding. That's just the way it is. Luke chapter 14, verse 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see him begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Count the cost. If your why is right, that you say, okay, I will do this. I'm committing to this until the end. If we say that and we understand some of the consequences that might come, we will be able to finish. Otherwise, people are going to sit around and say, hey, look, man, he can't do it. So starting is easy. Everybody's excited when something starts. It's easy, right? It's fresh, right? But finishing is hard because it requires endurance, humility, and structure. Endurance, humility, and structure. We must infuse structure, routine into our succeeding. We must do that. If we don't have structure, if we don't have something, if we don't have bones in our body, we'll just be big blobs. So we must have this structure. It doesn't mean we can't move. It means we have a system of how we operate. We have to know, before we can make any plan, we have to know our processes. How do we do things? What is our process? How we do things before we can plan. We also have to know our position. Now, if you want to do something really big and you're broke, well, first you need some money, right? So we need to know our position. We need to know our processes before we make a plan. Before we can't even plan because we can't record anything and we can't measure anything. So there's no sense in planning until we know the position, until we know our processes. Okay, what do you mean by processes? Where are you weak? Where are you strong? How do you operate? Are you better at night? Are you better in the morning? Are you a better talker? Are you a better writer? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Do a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, your strengths and your weaknesses. Find out what you're made of first. It's like taking an inventory, because if we don't do that, we're not really counting the cost. We're not counting the cost. Many people don't quit because they're lazy. They quit because they lose meaning and then lose momentum. A lot of people don't quit because they're lazy. They might look lazy, but once you gain some momentum, you want to keep that going, because if we lose momentum, that gets difficult. So we don't want to quit because we lose momentum. So why people don't finish? 5 common quit triggers. 5 common quit triggers. These triggers show up everywhere: relationships, leadership, personal goals. We want to identify the trigger, then respond with purpose. So, like I said before, number one, the top thing is pain shows up. Pain is going to show up. James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. Brethren, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience or endurance. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect, complete, lacking nothing. We know pain is going to show up. When we know something's going to happen before it happens, it's easier to deal with. We can be prepared. You know, when I was a kid, I'd been on many hay wagons. If you've never been on a hay wagon, you go out in the field and sometimes it stops and sometimes it goes. And when it goes, you have to be prepared. And if you're not prepared, you will fall down. That's just the way it goes. So we have to be prepared. But in the end, you'll be perfect. That means mature, complete, lacking nothing. Hebrews 12:11 says, now, no chastening seems joyful in the present, but pain, nevertheless, afterwards it yields a peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. So in the beginning, chastening, correction, nobody likes that. Nobody likes that in the beginning. In the present, it's not joyful. It's not good. But pain, nevertheless, afterwards, it yields a peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who've been trained by it. So pain makes people reach for relief, right? Pain makes people reach for relief instead of finishing. So if you're on your way up, pain will say, hey, hit the mark, let's exit stage right. I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. Pain will look for the release. What's that look like? Blaming other people, blaming circumstances. Oh, I just can't take this anymore. Oh, they just won't do what they said. Oh, they did this or they do that, or my parents, or I grew up, or I'm white, or I'm black, or you take your pick. But it will cause us to blame other people for something they have no control over and something we could do for ourselves. So pain makes us reach for relief instead of finishing. Pain makes us reach for relief instead of finishing. Discomfort doesn't mean you're off track. Say that again. Discomfort doesn't mean you're off track. It may mean you're in training. It's uncomfortable. Every time we do something new, every time we reach for something, it's uncomfortable. It just is. Why? Because we don't know it. We haven't made that part of us. There is mental assent, right? We know something, but then there's application, and then there's teaching. And so if we're in this application stage where we're learning something, it may be uncomfortable. So discomfort, you might feel like you never get it. Like you never get it at all. The first time I preached anywhere, I was invited to the church that I was at before Bible school, and they said, hey, come back and minister. And I said, okay. And I was all excited, and I wrote up a bunch of gobbledygook and tried to minister. And some people came to see, right? Half of the room got up and left. That was uncomfortable. Half of the room got up and left because I was ridiculous. That was uncomfortable. That's part of the process. Anytime you enter anything worth doing is worth doing wrong. Anything worth doing is worth doing wrong. What do you mean? It's worth doing and making the mistake, getting the egg on your face, and then make adjustments and then go forward and correct those things. Anything worth doing is worth doing wrong. Number 2, pride shows up. Pride. Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. Pride shows up, says, you believe your own press. You believe your own mess, right? Ego, pride is your enemy. It is. Because it will put you out there in front of God and you won't even know it. And by the time you realize it, the destruction's already happened. And you look around and you go, what happened? How did I get here? I thought I was doing good. Yeah, only here. This is where accountability is so critical. We have to have accountability. Now, accountability is going to feel like an attack if you don't like it. If you're prideful, accountability feels like attack. We just don't want to hear that. Galatians 6, 3 and 4. It says, for if anyone thinks himself to be something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one examine his own work, and then he will have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. Pride quits when it can't look impressive. Pride quits when it can't look impressive. That's a good one. So if we don't look like we have it all together, we look good, we'll quit. We'll stop. This isn't worth it. I didn't really want to do it anyway. It's a bunch of hogwash. Pride also refuses to help. Pride refuses to help, and isolation is a finishing killer. Pride refuses to help. So when you see a prideful person isn't going to invest in others, a prideful person isn't going to volunteer, a prideful person isn't going to take a lower place, a prideful person wants to be the center. If you're doing ministry, if you're doing anything to be successful and you want to be the center, if you want to be, pride, if you want that, you're not ready for promotion. You'll be isolated. Isolation's not a finisher. Number 3, distraction shows up. Now, when you go down the highway, when you go down a freeway, there are all kinds of exits. There's all sorts of exits, but only one exit has to do with where you're going, right? I know there's a bunch of other ways around that, but only one exit. We're looking for one exit, one way off, and that's our destination. So we stay up. We don't get distracted. Hey, that looks good. Let's go see the park. Hey, let's go see the buffaloes. Hey, let's go see that shiny object. No, if you put your head down and you're on your way, you stay there. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2, he says, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and every sin which so easily ensnares us. And that's the truth. It's going to easily ensnare us. Easy. These things will come up and we don't even know it. Again, if we don't have accountability, it's going to ensnare us. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. That's what we're doing. He is the author. He is the finisher of our faith. So we set our course. Now, does that mean God can't change your course? Well, of course he can. But don't let distraction be the thing that gets you off course, right? If you really set your mind, if it's really something from God, he's going to lead you every step of the way. He authorized it. He finishes it. He finishes it before we even start. Luke 10, 41 and 42. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her. Martha wanted to do all this other stuff. Don't you know we got to do this? Don't you? Listen, there are people that run around and during a week, they will do everything. I'm one of them. I'm a chief. If that's a sin, I'm the chief, right? Do everything else except for what you're actually supposed to do. What's actually going to move the needle, you do everything else. And we get distracted. Distraction's a big deal for me. I like shiny things. I like following. I like, oh, I'm interested in that. No, you stay on track. Stay on course. Distraction doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like busyness. So Martha, she was busy. She wasn't distracted. She's busy. She's getting this done. We got to find out what really needs to be done and do those important things and then fill in the rest. There's an illustration with rocks and pebbles. A guy takes a bunch of rocks and a bunch of pebbles and he gives it to the class. He says, put it in this cylinder. And of course, they put in all the small rocks first and then they put in the big rocks and then there's not enough room. But what he says is put in the big rocks first, then pour the small rocks in, and then there's enough room. Do the big things first, then concentrate on the little stuff. So distraction. The enemy doesn't always need you to sin. He just needs you to drift. The enemy doesn't need you to sin. He just needs you to drift, to get off track. And if you get off track, he's got you. Right? We get off into doing things and then we don't finish because we're talking about finishing. Number 4, shame. Big one. Shame shows up. Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. There is no condemnation. Doesn't mean conviction. Conviction is healthy. It means I know better and I'm doing the wrong thing. Condemnation says I am, because I didn't graduate high school, because I have a criminal record, because I'm divorced, because of all these things, because of this past, because of I was traumatized as a kid, or I had these rotten circumstances, then I can't do it. I can't go forward. And it's hogwash, shame, but shame will, even if you don't have it in the front of your mind, it'll be like, you can't do that. A person like you can't do that. You can't. And it's subtle. Shame can operate subtly. And so we have to realize, am I in Christ? Am I whole? WHOLE? Or am I operating out of shame? Shame will cause you not to have a voice. Shame will cause you not to have a voice and hold back. You, instead of going forward, you just hold back. I'm just going to hold back a little bit. I don't want to be too forward. That's not wisdom. That's shame. Shame will do that. Proverbs 24 verse 16. For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity. Shame says, you already blew it. You already blew it. So quit. You already messed up. So just quit. Just stop now. That's what shame says, right? Grace says, get up, reset, and keep going. Get up, reset, keep going. That's grace. You have a grace to go forward. Number 5, comfort shows up. Oh my. Once we get out of this critical stage and we get into comfort, do we really want to do this since I'm comfortable? Proverbs 13:4. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. So the soul of the lazy man desires, but he doesn't have anything, right? He's comfortable. Matthew 26:41. Watch and pray. That's why I always pray with my eyes open. Watch and pray, lest you enter temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. So we got to understand this going in. The spirit's willing, but the flesh, is weak. We may be comfortable. We may not feel like, oh, now we don't need to. This happens to so many people who are getting their life together and getting it right, right? They'll spend several months really diligent. Maybe you're losing weight and you spend several months really diligent, but you get down to a place where you're comfortable. Hey, this is good. This isn't so bad. Take your foot off the gas. Right? Comfort negotiates the plan. Well, I really don't need to do the gym. Well, I could take a day off. I could change because I'm good. I'm comfortable. Comfort always asks, do we really have to do it today? Comfort says, do we really have to go to the gym? Do we really have to go to a meeting? Do we really have to do it? I'm feeling okay. It doesn't matter. I'm all right. And you know, for a day or two, or a week or two, you might be right. You might be fine. But sooner or later, it will cause you to get off track so far that you quit. Most people don't quit at the start. They quit after the boring part. Most people don't quit after the start. They quit after the boring part. So when it gets a routine, when it gets comfortable, that's when we quit. Comfort is a liar with a soft voice. It's okay. That's all right. It didn't matter. You can miss this one. One more won't hurt. It's all right. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that at all. And there's a story to go with this. The story of John Stephen Akhwari. He was a African runner in the 1968 Olympics. John, he was from Tanzania. He was an Olympic marathon runner. He was one of the favorites to go in. He was a 26-year-old legitimate contender for the Mexico it was at altitude Olympics, right? But about 19 kilometers in, he had a fall. He was jockeying with people and he fell in a car, Akhwari. It's Akhwari, Akhwari. He was caught in the middle of this melee and he crashed to the pavement. He dislocated his knee, gashed it badly, smashed his shoulder, and most watching thought he was done. So he was, long story short, he's on his way. He's a favorite. He's got it together. He's trained. He did everything right. But he got caught in this melee in the middle of the race, fell down, gashed his knee, dislocated his knee, messed up his shoulder. He fell and everybody thought he was finished. They thought he was done. And so the winner was much easier name from Ethiopia, Mamo Waldi, crossed the finish line in 2 hours, 20 minutes. The medals were awarded, the sun set, most of the 80,000, can you imagine doing anything in front of 80,000 people? Most of the 80,000 spectators went home. Over an hour later, so the winner finishes in 2 hours, 20 minutes. But over an hour later, 3 hours, 25 minutes, with only a few thousand people in the stands, darkness falling, police sirens flashing, lights announced there was one more runner coming. He was the favorite. He did everything right. He was in the middle of the race and had a fall. Dislocated his knee, messed up his shoulder. The winners had already won this marathon over an hour ago. Yet he's still on the course. He's still going. They said there's one more runner coming. Now, John, we'll just call him John. John limped, that was his name, John. John limped into the Olympic Stadium. His leg was bandaged all up, blood soaked. He could barely walk. But when he hit the track, he started running again. The remaining crowd gave him a standing ovation as he crossed the finish line dead last. He crossed the finish line dead last. Everybody's giving him an ovation. Out of the 57 who finished, he was the last. So here's the quote. What did you go into that all for? Well, let me tell you. That's why we're here. To finish strong, right? Things are going to stop you from finishing. When a journalist asked why he didn't quit when he had absolutely no chance of winning, John gave him one of the most famous quotes in Olympic history. Now, if you don't know this is a famous quote in Olympic history, you're going to know it now. He said, "My country did not send me 5,000 miles to start the race. They sent me," I get goosebumps right now, "they sent me 5,000 miles to finish the race." That's why he was there. That was his why. He was to finish the race. And one step after one step after one step, 3 hours and some minutes later, he was finishing the race. He also later said his parents taught him, if you start doing something, finish it. Well, obviously, right? If you start something, finish it. So the legacy in that Tanzania awarded him the National Hero Medal of Honor in 1983. He finishes dead last, but he gets this National Hero Medal of Honor in 1983. He was invited to award the men's marathon medals at the 2000 Olympics. That's pretty good. He served as the Goodwill Ambassador in 2008 for the Beijing Olympics. His story has been featured in Olympic films and taught worldwide. Because he finished. When you start something, aim for the finish. Not for the distraction, not for comfort, not for being shame or afraid, or not any of that. Start for the finish. So the application here, this is a biblical principle of finishing the race. 2 Timothy 4, verse 7, Paul says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. So I'm saying when you start something, when you do something, you shall finish what you start. Say it with me. I will finish the thing I've started to do. I'm going to finish. And if I don't truly know my why, and I really am not committed, maybe I shouldn't even start. Maybe I should just quit. It's about commitment, follow through when nobody's watching. It's about knowing why you started in the first place. I can't stress that enough. It's about knowing, why did you do this? Why do you want this? It goes right back to the very beginning. When your why is clear and your next step is small, you will become a finisher. This is Pastor Andy, and if you stayed this long, God bless. Thank you so much for staying. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and we'll see you next time. God bless.